Hello, my little rain clouds. A while back, I said that I was going to do a question and answer video. And lots of people sent in all sorts of wonderful questions. And then I never did it. See, I built it up into this big thing. And I got overwhelmed by the amount of questions. And I put pressure and expectation on myself. And so I just procrastinated. I just avoided it. Who could have known? That is a thing that I have done many times in the past, and I'm sure many of you have also done that. But I am going to do my best to dismantle that and just do it, because it's really not a big deal. And I'm just going to read some questions out from my phone and answer them. And I haven't really thought about it too much, so I'm just going to do it and it'll be fine. I should say that if you have a particular headcanon or like an image of me in your mind and you don't want that to be changed by answers to personal questions, if that would affect your enjoyment or your immersion or, I don't know, attraction to me or something, then don't listen. If, for instance, you really like guys with tattoos and then a question asks if I have a tattoo and I say no, and that would be like upsetting for you, then you can elect not to listen. But if you don't mind, and you would like to know a bit more about me and what I do, then by all means, listen on. Okay, let's just dive in and do this. Let's answer some questions and question some answers, because I haven't really thought about this very much. Okay, let's start with professional questions. This is about my channel and about audios. How long have you made audios like this? I think it's about 3.5 years. But my channel is not as old as that. I made them elsewhere and then eventually brought quite a few of them over to my YouTube channel. And even then, it was pretty quiet and dormant for a while. Not many people found it. But then eventually I started to get into the swing of things and pick up steam. So overall, I think in general, I've been making audios for about 3.5 years at the time of this recording. But probably more like 2 years, 1.5 years, maybe for YouTube. I didn't check. I have no idea. But yeah, 3.5 years. Feels like a lot longer than that in some ways, and also much, much less than that in many other ways. That seems like a long time, but I guess it has been about 3.5 years. Whew. Anyway, next question. How did you come to make audios? So, before I was doing this, I was studying science. I'd finished my degree, and I was doing a master's. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I wasn't particularly happy with my life. I wasn't really enjoying science. It was great at first, but I ended up not really enjoying the course. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just kind of kept going with it. And that wasn't really the right call, because it ended up being something that made me miserable. So I was feeling really down, really bad about myself, really depressed, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was lacking purpose. I wasn't keeping up with my masters or anything like that. And so I guess just out of desperation, maybe, I was looking for some kind of connection, I think. I felt very isolated and lonely from people. And in my searching, I just kind of stumbled upon some social communities online. and one of them appreciated voices. So I kind of just tried my hand at recording my voice and read some poems and did some like questionnaires and things like that. And in general, people quite liked it. And I got some nice feedback from people. People seemed interested. They appreciated me and my voice and wanted to learn more about me. And I started making audios that were a bit more elaborate, that gave me a bit of a creative outlet. I'd always been interested in voice acting. Been a huge nerd about voice actors and the cast of like, you know, animated shows and video games and things like that. And, you know, I had a fairly decent voice, so I just sort of flourished in that, I suppose. And I think I'm a decent actor, even though I'm untrained. But I enjoyed the challenge, the creative expression, and eventually the ability to help people. And so I just kind of kept doing it, despite all sorts of hurdles and difficulties. I kept at it. And it felt motivating to me, at least in stops and starts. Obviously, I've had a few hiatuses, but yeah, in general, that's just how I sort of got started. And then eventually I amassed quite a few audios that helped people, and I figured, you know what, I could probably bring them to YouTube and make something more available, more publicized, that people could stumble upon it easier and find things that would help them. So I did. And it didn't really take off for a while. I think I probably got a pretty big bump from Cardlin linking to me and recommending people check me out. And I don't know, probably a few other ways too, but I think just people gradually started finding me, and it kind of snowballed from there. And here we are. Okay, next question. Has anyone in your day-to-day life commented on liking your voice? Yeah, some people have. I guess this is a more nuanced version of my voice. It's a voice where I'm actively putting more effort into my voice, so it's nicer than, you know, just everyday speaking, you know, going to the shops or something. But I like using my voice. I do all sorts of voices and stuff when I'm, you know, telling jokes and making people laugh, or if I'm playing a role-playing game or something like that. In high school, sometimes I get called upon to read the textbook in a subject and read it out loud for the class. And in one particular subject, I just started reading them out in foreign accents, and people really liked it. It made it much more interesting and palatable. People probably graduated because of me, or at least did a bit better on their exams because they retained a bit more, maybe paid a bit more attention, maybe. But yeah, I've had some people say that they liked my voice, but I suppose also I tend to be a bit more reserved, and I don't always do that much talking when I'm around other people. It depends on the circumstances. Sometimes I'm like a class clown. Sometimes I'm very vocal and assertive and like a leader or something. But a lot of the time I tend to be more of a quiet type that doesn't necessarily talk that much unless I have something important to say. So maybe people don't notice that much. Next question. Would you ever collaborate with someone else and sing a song or duet with someone else? Probably not. A disappointing answer, maybe, but here's the thing. I have very particular standards when it comes to my audios and the way that I tend to work about things, and I don't really like the idea of collaborating that much. But also, I think one of the strengths of what I do is the intimacy of it, and the idea that it's just you and I talking, that something is happening just between us. And that's very intimate, very personal. And if someone else is involved, either it would just be me and them, in which case you're like a weird observer, or you're like a third party, but it's kind of strange that the two of us are talking and you're not, I suppose. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing it's a common thing that people do. I'm not terribly familiar with many of the other kinds of audios that different creators make, but I don't know. I think it would be less special. And I think that it wouldn't have that same degree of intimacy and perhaps that same degree of safety and comfort. You might not want to talk about, very personal, sensitive issues if there's two people talking to you about it. You might feel like a third wheel. I'm not sure. I suppose potentially I'd be open to it, but I don't really like the idea of it. It's not a terribly comfortable thing for me. It's quite a deviation from the way that I usually record things. And also I think because people are doing recording in different environments with different microphones and things like that, there's also quite a difference in sound quality, which I suppose normally people wouldn't notice or care that much about, but me, I'm very sensitive to that. I've trained my ear to hear that, so it would bug the hell out of me. But I suppose that most people don't care. And the same goes for duetting. I think that would probably be pretty tough to do unless you were like in the room with someone, which I don't anticipate being. So I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. How did the ideas of these audios come up? Are they mostly improvised? Are some scripts? They used to be a lot more scripted. I used to write out a lot of the audios that I would do early on. Nowadays, I don't really script anything out unless it's a very particular sensitive issue. Dysphoria, maybe something like self-harm, perhaps like an eating disorder or something like that. I might want to script that out so that I can be very careful with what I say, because you don't want to trigger someone or upset someone. But in general, nowadays, I'm much more comfortable to just improvise, to just speak from the heart and, talk off the top of my head and then let myself be myself. I think that's a lot more genuine. And a lot of people can probably appreciate that. I don't know whether they're actually aware that I'm doing it or not, but I think it will probably feel a lot more natural. And so it helps to make people feel a bit more comfortable, immerse themselves in it a bit more. It feels a bit more real, perhaps. And I think it also feels more uniquely me. It's more personal because it's something that only I would say. I speak about things in a different way than other people would. Because I think that if there's a script that's making the rounds of the recording community or whatever, you might hear a lot of different people saying the same words, and that can be fine. You can enjoy that. But I think something that feels uniquely personal to them, something that's written in their own words, or if they're just speaking from the heart, I think that feels a lot more genuine. That's something that only they would say in the way that they would say it. And I think that is what people really want. They want to connect to a real person, and they want to feel that genuineness. And so previously I approached things more as an actor, and I would write things out and make it more of a performance. But over time I've become a lot more comfortable just being myself. And I think that's what people really like. Obviously, people like the other stuff too. But interestingly, I think people seem to enjoy it more when I'm just being me. And there was a time where that was the most repulsive idea imaginable to me, but now I'm becoming a lot more comfortable with that, which I think is nice. But as to where the ideas come from, people request stuff. I see comments about things. my patrons on Patreon will ask for things or recommend that I do a certain thing. Sometimes people will commission me to do a certain thing. But also I might just observe someone struggling with that thing and think, oh yeah, that's a good topic for an audio. Or, I don't know, something will happen in my life to make me think, yeah, I should record something about that. I should talk about this or comfort people about that. So, all sorts of places, really. Okay, next question. Do you have any sort of training in counseling or anything like that? Or are you mostly using things you've learned on your own in some of your more self-help oriented audios? I recognize a lot of terminology in your audios from when I was in therapy in the past, so it makes me curious. I have no formal training in anything like that, but I have recently applied to study a graduate diploma of counseling. So, hopefully, in the future, I might have some sort of training in counseling. I don't know if I actually want to be a counselor, but I think that getting some sort of training and learning skills and how to protect myself and be safe and be ethical and, help other people could be really useful for this, even if I don't do anything else with it, even if I don't become a counselor. But no, at the moment, it's all just stuff I've experienced, stuff I've learned. A lot of it is stuff I've learned from my own therapy. I've been going to therapy for quite a while, on and off, and I found it very helpful. I'm the kind of person that I think takes to introspection and examination of my thoughts and feelings and behaviors quite well. And it's important to me to learn from what I've experienced, from mistakes I've made, from things like that. So I tend to absorb a lot in therapy, and then I take that and also use it to help you. Hopefully, at least. So, yeah, I think I'm the kind of person that gets a lot of wisdom from my own experiences, but therapy has also really helped me to change the way I look at things, to help other people change the way that they look at things. I think therapy is great. Honestly, I kind of feel like everyone should go to therapy, which a lot of people don't agree with, but I've certainly found it very, very helpful. Yeah. Okay, next question. I'm curious about what's made you brave enough to broach the topics that most other humans run from. And I'm really curious about how you manage to navigate them so graciously. How do you always know exactly what to say? I don't. Often, I have no idea about what to say, particularly if I haven't experienced a thing myself. If I haven't struggled with that problem, I have no idea what to say or what people need to hear. But the very important thing that I do is that I ask people. You'd be surprised how helpful that is. Although certainly there are a lot of people who do not want to tell you because they don't want to feel like they are speaking for an entire community or type of people. I've found that a lot with trans people when I've asked, what kind of things would be helpful for you to hear. Nothing. Crickets. But I have gotten some helpful feedback from people, especially when I'm unsure as to what would be helpful to hear. And so I try my best to listen and empathize with that person and with the kind of problems that they're facing, understand what they're going through, why they're going through that, what kind of things are helpful. And I just try and be sensitive to that, I suppose, and try and deliver logic, but logic wrapped in compassion and kindness. There's certainly a lot of difficult topics that I was tempted to just avoid talking about. Obviously, sensitive issues like self-harm, eating disorders, bigotry, prejudice, dysphoria, body image issues, things like that. They're sensitive issues. They're tough to navigate. You don't want to upset someone by saying the wrong thing and do more harm than good. But I try and be very careful. I try and be very considerate. I try and learn what would be helpful and what not to say. And I also see a need for those sorts of things. I want to take a risk, even though obviously risks aren't great. I want to take that risk because I think it's important to do. I think there are lots of people out there who are hurting or who need help, and they need to hear those sorts of things. And someone has to do it. Someone has to try and be brave and overcome the fear of failure, of upsetting someone, of hurting someone. And so, because it's in line with my values, because it feels important, it feels like it's worth doing, it's worth confronting that risk. And, I also try and take lots of safety precautions, like writing out extensive descriptions, putting warnings in there, and letting people make informed decisions about whether or not an audio is right for them. But I certainly don't know exactly what to say, and it's not effortless. It's not some perfectly easy thing that isn't scary or risky. Where did you get your channel name? Did anything inspire it at all? I talked about this a little bit in the Welcome to Rainy Day audio, but I really struggled to find a name for a long time. I tend to put a lot of emphasis and importance on names. If I have to name a character or name a website or something like that, I will spend ages on it and I will agonize over the significance of it and the way that it sounds and all sorts of things. So I went through a lot of potential names and, looked at different qualities that I possess and things that I wanted to make people feel and all sorts of stuff like that. But I liked the idea of rainy day audios because a rainy day is potentially kind of bleak and sad, but also kind of comforting. And the idea of saving something for a rainy day, the idea that it's there when you need it, those sorts of things. I thought that was a really nice image. And it also sounded kind of, comforting, kind of safe and gentle and warm and nice. And I thought the idea of a little cloud icon would be really cute. And it is. And as it turns out, I quite like the nickname Rainy as well. It's a nice name. What is the most important point when you're recording or writing your script? I think just trying to be natural and trying to, if you're going to write a script, write it in a way that feels natural to you, that works with how you would actually speak, and making it seem authentic, making it seem real, so that it's not this stilted thing, or that you have lots of really long winding sentences or anything like that. Just making something that's actually readable and performable so that it comes across naturally and it isn't a chore to read. And I think the same way, just trying to be a bit more comfortable, I suppose, when you're recording something, just making it a comfortable experience, making it something that you feel confident when you're recording that, so you come across as comforting. Because if you're on edge, if you're not comfortable, then other people probably aren't going to be comfortable when they listen to it. And that's important. So just making sure that you're comfortable with it, from how you record to the script, or however you approach the audio, all those sorts of things. I think that's important. It's in the name, right? Comfort audios. Have you ever strayed from your comfort zone on a suggested audio? I have indeed. Many, many times. My comfort zone used to be much, much smaller, and it's still not huge. But yes, I have worked quite hard to challenge myself all sorts of ways. Initially, I didn't really think that I was going to do, self-harm related things or eating disorder related things. I didn't even know if I was going to do anything about mental illness other than maybe some anxiety stuff. I didn't know if I wanted to tackle something like abuse, for instance. I didn't know if I wanted to make things for all sorts of different genders, or if I wanted to just focus on the marketable audience of cis women. And yeah, I don't know. I explored all sorts of different possibilities, and some things felt risky or dangerous, but they felt important to me. They were in line with my values, and I need to be who I am. I need to be true to myself, and inclusiveness is important to me. Tackling difficult subjects is important to me. Obviously, I still want to try and be as comfortable as I can, so I put a lot of work into trying to find out the right way to approach things, to feel more secure about things, to get people's feedback on how to talk about things, what kind of terms to use, all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, I think probably the heavier subjects like self-harm and eating disorders and things like that, those were the big ones that really they were outside of my comfort zone. But I did them anyway, and they went pretty well, and I think people appreciated them. Would you ever do a short series? I kind of already have. A couple of them, I suppose, but they're not necessarily like directly linked. The lullaby chemistry audios are a kind of series, but you don't have to listen to them in order. The D&D ramble audios are like kind of a loose series, I guess. Not really, maybe, kind of. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I could do a series. I think it would require a good setup or a good idea, but I could certainly do a series. The thing about series is that it tends to be something that accumulates expectation. There's like a pressure to live up to a precedent and to keep making something good, and people anticipate it. And, you know, I could see myself doing one, but I could also see myself becoming avoidant and procrastinating about it and being like, oh, it's been 6 months and I haven't done another episode of that thing, and people are like continually pestering me to do it. And I think that would be demotivating, probably. So I could do one, but I would want it to be pretty casual and something that was easy enough to do, and hopefully something that didn't generate a lot of expectation, I guess. So I don't know. But maybe. Anyway, I've been talking for quite some time. I still have a lot of questions, but those are all the ones about audios and a channel. So I think I might stop here, and if I feel up to it, no promises, no pressure, if I feel up to it, then I may make another one of these at some point, answering other questions, like personal questions, hobbies, favorite things, I don't know, whatever else. But I did it. I'm proud of myself, and I hope you are proud of me. And I'm proud of you for listening to this, because it seems like kind of a long one. But I am proud of myself for tackling something that was pretty intimidating and overwhelming, but I did it anyway. I'm not looking forward to editing this one, because it's probably going to be really long. But I'm glad that I did this, and hopefully you appreciate it, and you learned a little bit more about me. Although this one wasn't terribly personal, but you got a little bit of a look behind the curtain, and hopefully you appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time, my little rain clouds. Bye-bye.